All right, 5:30. Let's call the meeting to order. We can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, meeting guidelines, safety protocol. Purpose of this meeting is for the board to conduct board business. Meeting is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website. This meeting is being presented via Zoom, and it's not appropriate for audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. Agenda items will be listed as, or will be addressed as listed in the agenda. Case of emergency, please exit to the exit closest to you. And also officially say, go Mariners. Vision and mission statements. Director Rocco, would you share those for us?
Sure. Our vision is our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. And our mission is in connection with our community, the Sequim School District, empower staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student thrives.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Halverson, would you share our land acknowledgement if you don't mind?
Sure. We acknowledge the land we stand on. The Sequim School District's administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the S'Klallam people. While the S'Klallam traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign S'Klallam tribal governments. Lower Elwha Klallam tribe, located in Port Angeles, Jamestown S'Klallam tribe, located in Sequim, Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe, located in Kingston, Washington. The district's primary partnership is with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. Today, the tribe and district share a partnership that includes official consultation on program and funding changes that may directly affect American Indian and Alaska Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, 2.01. We have our Regional Certificated Employee of the Year recognition, and I'd like to introduce Aaron Lavelle.
Well, I know I've said this before, but it's always a pleasure to be here, and the drive is just gorgeous. I was in Renton most of the day today, and the drive does not compare once you hit hit the bridge. But good evening, board and Superintendent Nichols. As you said, I'm Aaron Lavelle, Superintendent OESD 114, and I'm joined this evening by your region director for the ESD, Mr. Jim Stauffer. And just a pleasure to be here tonight to recognize our Olympic ESD 114 region 2026 Teacher of the Year, Miss Shannon Green, second grade teacher at Greenwood. And if it's okay, I would like to just say a few things about Shannon and highlight some of her professional practices. So what we've learned is Miss Green specializes in literacy instruction for struggling readers. She implements the full UFLI, which is University of Florida Literacy Institute intervention curriculum to deliver targeted, differentiated instruction. Miss Green designs lessons with explicit, systematic instruction in phonemic awareness, word recognition, and reading fluency. Shannon uses small group instruction to tailor support based on student skill levels, such as CVC word decoding, irregular word recognition, and guided fluency practice. Miss Green engages students through hands-on activities such as word building and interactive games, oral reading practice, so individual, pairs, and small groups, and peer collaboration to build community and confidence. Shannon creates a supportive learning environment by revisiting concepts with visual aids, repetition, and real-world connections, and conducting ongoing informal assessments to adjust her instruction. Miss Green maintains very strong family partnerships through regular communication and home learning strategies, and is committed to helping every child become a confident, capable reader through targeted support, collaboration, and continuous reflection. Shannon strongly believes in positive mindset and growth in education with three key concepts. She embraces a growth mindset. Teaching is ever evolving, and educators must be lifelong learners who reflect, adapt, and grow alongside their students. I know this is a lot standing here, but this is really awesome stuff. Build strong relationships. She understands each student's unique needs. Their dreams and challenges is key to unlocking their potential and nurturing their success. Foster collaboration and community. So growth is fueled by feedback and support from colleagues, families, and the broader school community, creating a culture where every student can thrive in her classroom. So in conclusion, I'd like to share just a few things that her principal, Jennifer, and one of her colleagues had to say about Shannon. So the words from Principal Lopez: Shannon Green is a deeply committed and transformative educator with 19 years of service, known for her ability to connect with students, tailors instruction to individual needs, and fosters academic and personal growth, especially through her mastery of the UFLI intervention curriculum for struggling readers. Her impact extends way beyond the classroom through coaching, organizing creative events, securing enrichment opportunities and field trips, and maintaining strong family partnerships. As a national board certified teacher and respected colleague, Shannon exemplifies excellence, leadership, and dedication. A few words from her colleague, Greg Newton. Shannon has consistently demonstrated an incredible ability to work with students facing both academic and behavioral challenges. Her classroom is a place of structured support and high expectations where students feel safe and encouraged to succeed. On numerous occasions, I have come into her room during her planning period only to find her working tirelessly with students, providing them with additional support they need to bridge their academic gaps. Mrs. Green's passion for education, her ability to connect with students, and her willingness to go above and beyond make her an invaluable asset. And all this to say, it makes her our region's 2026 Teacher of the Year. Congratulations.
Outstanding.
Picture of,
Were we able to circle around to a picture?
yeah.
All right.
That's right. Hey,
Come on. And do you want to do one with?
Yeah, you
Shannon?
should too. What do you think?
You should do. Oh, yeah, definitely get in there. Okay, I will. Did I got her on the green one thing? Okay.
Great.
Okay, well, this is a fun trip for me. I think this might be my second or third time with either teacher or classified employee of the year. So keep it going, Swim School District. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, and with that, let's move on to approval of our minutes, approval of our agenda and consent agenda. With one amendment to the agenda, we don't have our student board reps here. So, and they had a presentation listed on the agenda as well. We're just gonna move that to the next meeting, so we'll just not have the student board representative portion of the meeting, but with that modification, is there any objection to minutes, agenda and consent agenda?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll consider those approved. And that will bring us to our public comment portion of the meeting. And if you are attending the meeting via Zoom right now, you can indicate your desire to make public comment using the raise hand feature located on the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and do that now so we can get you right in the queue for making public comment. All right, and I'm going to go over our guidelines for public comments. And we have a total time in the agenda for 30 minutes, and for individual speakers, that's up to 3 minutes. Groups may combine their time up to 10 minutes if they have one spokesperson. You want to say, we value your voice, and this is a time for listening, not dialogue. The board will not respond during public comment, and silence should not be interpreted as agreement or disagreement. The board chair may ask clarifying questions, and staff may follow up at a later if needed. It's not appropriate for complaints or charges about employees to be mentioned during public comment. These issues are to be addressed to the superintendent in writing. And just a reminder that your words matter. You are responsible for what you share, and we encourage respectful, inclusive communication. We all must follow the same standards of civility, order, and businesslike manner during board meetings. Please be mindful of privacy and defamation laws. If unsure, consider seeking legal advice. Thank you for helping us model positive and respectful, a positive and respectful environment for our staff, students, and community. And first we have Jim Stoffer.
Good evening, board and staff, superintendent, changing my name tag to from ESD to CISO City Association. First, thank you all for your attendance at our dinner we had on Wednesday night, and then the tours at our various schools. You had them at Gray Wolf, I think, was the because the littles and then the orchids. Now, just for full transparency, we've re-gifted those orchids because they don't travel well, but they're in a place that will be seen and well loved each day. So there's some steps going forward, and I'll send over a more formal presentation on it. But I just wanted to today thank the schools, the board for the support for the visit. The dance group also was a huge hit. Then the high school choir, and then we had, there was, we were really trying to focus in on the students and then what we provide here, which you all provide. An item that the association agreed to, and I was making it clear that association doesn't speak for the district or the city. But there at our meeting that was Wednesday afternoon, yes. They want to do an online exchange on January 24th, which is their January 25th, and it's just an online exchange. I've left Assistant Superintendent Donna here with a couple bags, which will be used in that interaction. So if you could just keep those in a place, safe storage. And then after that, they want to do a student exchange, 5 students from SQUAM with 3 chaperones. Later into 26, we'll have to figure out those details and logistics. And then the following year, they would like to do where CISO students would come here. And looking at 5 students and then their chaperones. And so a lot of conversations around economics, costs, feasibility, and so forth, but we'll work through those. And I want to thank Megan. I don't see her tonight, but she was instrumental in our planning committee and a few others. And I learned some more Japanese. I'm very grateful to our vice president, Jenny, who lived in CISO, or not in CISO, but in Japan for 36 years. And so this is the first time in a long time where she was able to engage in conversational Japanese and just have some fun speaking with them in the group. And I know Mr. Kamito and Mr. Isashaw were very, very appreciative. They wanted to stay longer, but we got them to the ferry on time, and then they had a night in Seattle, and then they were flying back on Sunday or Saturday, and all was well. So thank you again for all the.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right, Jennifer Lopez.
Okay, I'm here as a parent tonight. I have two students at the middle school, and I just want to give a big shout out to the middle school, Kelly Mishko, her leadership team of students who put on a dance on Saturday night. It was so fun. I chaperoned. I had a great time. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend if you've never chaperoned one of those dances. Um, they had games in one gym and snacks and waters, and they had a dance in the second gym. It was just a really fun experience for me to see through my kids' eyes and live and in person. Um, it took me back to the book that many of us have read, The Anxious Generation. And if you haven't, please do. When it is talking in this book, it's talking about, taking kids out of the online world and having them immersed in reality and doing things together. And they had kids DJing this dance. They had little playlists. It was everything that you want for your kids. And I heard from some other parents who chaperoned last year that there were twice as many kids as last year. And so I just want to encourage you to read the book if you haven't, encourage everyone to find these opportunities to get kids out and doing things and interacting in real life and not just online. It was everything. I loved it. So I just want to give them a big shout out.
Nice. Great. Thank you. Heard positive reports from my 12-year-old as well. So, but all right, David Updike.
I want to echo what Jennifer said about the anxious generation. I haven't talked to board members about it, but I know I've talked to Superintendent Nichols a little bit about it. It's just a great book, and I'm really glad that we've done it as a community read. Another thing I sent an email to Superintendent Nichols, but I want to tell all of you, thank you for the communications on the threats made on social media. I really feel like it's been handled so well the last few years. As a staff member, I feel very safe. As a parent, I feel like my kids are safe. We've had conversations before about how it's the things in the building and helping kids not fall through the cracks that really keeps kids safe. And we have such good counselors and so many good things going. So thank you for that. I thought last night was handled so well from a parent perspective and a staff perspective. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some data. I know there's a data dig today. I love data digs. I did one this weekend looking at it. I had a couple of thoughts I wanted to share about it. One is, and I know tonight's just a snapshot, it's just one look at things, but it just goes back like 4 years. And my main thing with data is that the data is really clear that the pandemic hurt our kids. It's the most clear thing, I think, of data, and it's not just our district, it's all over the place. But I'm sure there's a certain purpose for tonight to just look back 4 years maybe, but I just want to point out that if you go back in our data, our kids are still hurting from COVID, from the pandemic, from remote learning specifically. It's very well researched at this point that the longer they were remote, the harder it was for them to come back and catch up. So I bring all of that up because I think you're probably aware high-dose tutoring ended this year. I think it's a budget reason is all I've heard. I haven't heard a lot of talk about what happened to it. But I know that there are staff members at some or all of the buildings that would still like to do it. And I think we have data to support it as something that we should be doing if at all possible. We've had free after-school tutoring many years over the time I've been here for a couple of decades. And if it is at all possible, I would love to see it happen. I go to IEP meetings virtually every single day, and parents this school year have asked at least 10 times already probably about the tutoring, and it's hard to tell them, I don't know what's happening. I don't think it's happening this year. So I wanted to put that on your radar. And I also want to say that I don't see anywhere in the data that our elementary change is helping so far. So please, please keep that on your radar as a parent. I do not like having my children separated all over the town. And I feel like that has never really been addressed. I don't really feel like we as a district have said, here's what we did. And I would like it to be addressed from a data point of view at some point in time. I think it's really important.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have anyone online? Okay. With that, we'll close the portion of the meeting for public comment. Thank you for those making public comment. And we are going to skip past student board representatives, and that's going to bring us to finance and enrollment report.
Tracy, can we start with this one? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Assistant Superintendent Hudson and Superintendent Nichols. Oh, yep. Better? Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to walk you through our enrollment. This is as of October 1st. So first I'm going to talk about how our funding comes from the state. So the state takes the information that we give them, which is the budgeted information. So we have currently budgeted 2,525. Am I on? Is it good? Yeah, okay. We have 2,525 students budgeted, and that is how we're going to be funded through December. So as we go through these months, each month we are going to be, November is going to be 25, December is going to be 25, and starting in January, we will then take our average enrollment of all of these months and we'll be funded off of that. So as it is right now, the information that I have is not affecting our funding, but it will start affecting our funding in January, and they will look back to these months for what our enrollment was, and so we will receive funding for these months in future months. Our current enrollment is 2,525, which is our budgeted, so that's what the number that we are looking at. Our October actual is going to be 2,565. Our average FTE is 2,458, and then our October actual FTE is 2,483. Oh, can we go back? Does anybody have any questions about these numbers? Because these are going to be the most important numbers of this presentation.
I was just interested in how that, I don't know if you can answer this question, but how does that impact those extra students? If we budgeted, that seems to me that we have a certain number of staff and we have a certain number of supports for those students. And what happens when you have more than you budgeted for?
It depends on the distribution of where the additional students are. Our budgeting was aiming to have certain numbers of class placements. And so we do have some places in our school district where we have overage, which is a number exceeding the class size. So we're looking at that right now. We will continue to think about how this is distributed, and Elijah's going to show you that. Okay, our enrollment in elementary is quite strong. It's our high school that is showing a drop in expected enrollment. So we're looking at that. Do remember that class sizes of new incoming classrooms, our kindergarten is a perfect example, is likely to be less as we move forward in years because of declining birth rates. But when we see this, you want to hit the target for budgeted average enrollment because that is the minimum apportionment that we had planned for. The additional gives us a buffer that I think does just simply allow us to continue the programming that we have.
Right.
Okay, moving to the next slide. we are comparing our October. No, this should be one that looks like this. There we go. Oh, that one. Wonderful. So comparing our October 2024 enrollment, we had 2,277. October 2025, we had 2,266 students.
So I want to talk about these numbers for a moment. One thing that we are noticing, we're having more students go to Running Start this year. So while it does show that we have less enrollment in 2025, I actually think this is showing a decent pattern because we had a lower sized kindergarten and we have more students going to Running Start, and that other enrollment stayed very steady. So it's good news for SQUIM. Of course, we're going to have to continue to look at what incoming class sizes are so that we recognize we're graduating a larger senior class than the kindergartens coming in next. And so we'll probably continue to see a dynamic like this or worse.
All right, so going through by detail, these are going to be the full-time equivalents. This is not head count of students. This is how many students we have if they were full-time. So in Grey Wolf, we budgeted 426. We had 444 enrolled. In Helen Howler, we budgeted 522. We had 534 enrolled. In SQUIM Middle School, we had 523 budgeted and 536 enrolled. Our K-12 is, our K through 8 is showing very strong numbers, and it is only a coincidence that the top 3 all increased and that the bottom 3 all decreased. For our high school, we budgeted 760 and we had 748 enrolled. A large part of this is going to be on that bottom right-hand corner. We had 78 Running Start FTE compared to 66 budgeted. And the reason that that has a down arrow next to it is this arrow is how it impacts our finances. So our Running Start has a net negative impact on our income. So the more students we enroll there, the less income we are bringing in, and then it actually costs us a little bit more than what we get for the Running Start students. Developmental preschool, we had 27 budgeted and 13 enrolled. That one we are still working on, so that number is going to grow through the year. We have 9 that we're working on right now that are not included in that number. And then for Olympic Peninsula Academy and DVS, we had 227 budgeted and 221 enrolled. So that is right about online with our budgeted numbers. All right, so this is a graph of the actual versus budgeted. So the purple number is the number of students that we have in full-time equivalent. The gold is going to be the budgeted number, and then the difference, there's going to be a trend line right here, which is on a different axis. So it is, if you look on the right-hand side, there is a trend line axis, and that is going to show you what we had that were enrolled as a percent compared to what we had budgeted. So if you look at our 4th grade and 9th grade, we had very strong enrollments there, and that's reflected in that trend line. You can see that large spike in 9th grade. And then it evens out, and then you can also see the drop where we have the Running Start for 11th and 12th grade. Wonderful. So this next graph is going to be our actual versus our class of 2024. So what we've done here is we've taken our enrollments for the ending class of 24-25, and we have compared them to what we had come in at the beginning of this year. So there are some slight differences, but it is a lot more smooth than the prior chart. So you can also see the drop in 11th and 12th grade, and then we can actually see that there's an uptick of students in 12th grade compared to the prior graph. All right, this is the backup data to that chart. You can see in 9th grade, it's going to be the 4th from the bottom on the right, 14.09%, which is quite a jump in our 9th grade class. All right, any questions about enrollment?
I do have one. Can you go back to the class sizes by schools? So I'm looking at the uptick and Gray Wolf, just because I know that is, or well, I think it actually applies to K3, where there's actually strings attached to the funding there that's very specific to class size. And so, whereas if you don't have the appropriate number, you get like penalized on that. And so I'm just wondering, and I don't know, Regan, if you can answer that, but if that's something that potentially could have a negative impact for the K3 if one is, well, I guess for Helen Heller too, that could be. I think it's K3.
Yes, it
K2,
is.
K3.
It's a K3 calculator. And so there is a ratio that you want to land at the sweet spot. And so we will be working with that calculator in the coming months. The goal is to have that calculator set at the sweet spot definitely by December, because in January is when our apportionment becomes actual apportionment related to your enrollment, not your budgeted. And we want to be sure we have that done. So we'll be looking at that after year end is finalized.
Thank you. All right, on to the next one. All right, so we are required by the state to prepare and have available a budget report every month. So this report fulfills those requirements. Now, this report is not required to be presented, it's just required to be available. This data is through the end of September 30th. So as of October 1st, no data is included. So I'm going to talk you guys through first an accounting example, which is going to be pertinent to the next slide that we are talking about. So at the end of the year, ending August 31st, we have to do something called closing. And in closing, we do a whole bunch of accounting topics, or a whole bunch of things in accounting. And one of the topics is accruals and prepaids. And so an accrual is something that we owe money for a past expense that we have not yet paid. So something that we had this year, we had some contractors that turned in their hours for August in September. That's great. We'll pay it on the September payroll. However, September is the new fiscal year, which means that we will have our money will be all of 25-26 money. So we have to go in and we have to adjust all of those numbers to be taken out of the 24-25 year. The effect of that is it's going to reduce our 24-25 fund balance because we've taken some money out of it. On the other hand, we have a prepaid, which is something that happens when we pay early for an expense that we're not going to use in the current fiscal year. So an example of that is we had a curriculum software subscription for several years that we paid in cash in 2025, but it's going to be used through a 3-year period. So we have to go and we have to take that money and we have to allocate it for those next 3 years. So that is actually going to have an increase on our fund balance because we're going to take money out of the current year and we're going to take money from a future year and put it into that current year. So we don't have that expense right away. So that is, do you guys have any questions about that?
So for something that's prepaid, it's whatever date it's actually like it
So-
could be charged on, that it's that specific date. if it's
So
prepaid, right?
we will use the expense for the item on the date that it's used. That's correct. So not the date that we paid it, but on the date that we used, or on the group of dates that we used the item. Okay. So with that being said, we are going through year end right now, and it is not done. So with this report, I've shown you guys only actual amounts. We don't have any prior period comparisons because they are not completed yet. All of the figures are preliminary and could change after the year-end entries are posted. Accrual accounting requires us to assign these costs to a period of use, and so we have to go through all of our costs for the year and assign them to a period of use. This is not the payment date, so even though we've paid them in the current year, we have to assign them to a year to utilize. The same thing happens with prepaids. We have to assign that prepaid to a year. And the fund balance reports that are current will be available after all of this closing. So you'll notice in some of these reports, there's going to be a 0 or a negative number that would not normally be there. And that is because all of the fund balance for these reports is still in the 24-25 year. It has not been pushed through to the next year yet. So we're kind of in the middle of two. So that is our disclaimer for these numbers. The numbers that I am giving to you are actual numbers, so I will let you know if there is a number that could be affected by this. This general fund revenue, these are actual numbers. So this is going to be the income that we have. We have 3.4 million of income for September. Our year-to-date activity, 3.4 million, same month. We have 46 million left to collect. All right, on the next slide, we have apportionment, which is going to be our main driver of revenue. This is our largest amount. This is going to be about 26.1 to 27 million, somewhere in that range, depending on our enrollment. And as you can see here, I've given a chart of the percentage of our total apportionment that we get every month. And you'll notice that it is not a flat line. We have a large reduction in November, and we also have a reduction in May and June. And those amounts are paid back in July and August. So this is one of the important things about having a strong fund balance is we need extra money in the fund balance to take care of these months when we get a lower apportionment amount, because these variances in apportionment are quite high. All right, so going on to expenditures, we have spent so far 4.4 million, and we have encumbered 33.2 million. Now, an encumbrance is an accounting tool that we use to say that this money is not spent yet, but we have a contractual obligation to expend this money after services have been rendered. With those, it is important to have because it gives us a good example of what our budget is looking like at this time in the year. So these are our regular money that we know that we are going to spend. So a very large part of that is going to be our salaries. So you can see there we've encumbered 17 million of salaries for classified and 6.4 million of salaries for, or I'm sorry, 17 million of certificated and 6.4 million of classified. Do we have any questions about those? Wonderful. Okay. All right, so this brings us to our general fund summary, which is both of those combined. We have the excess of revenue, 120,000. So that is our unspent budgeted amount is $120,000. For the month of September, we have spent about $1 million more than we've brought in, and that is par for the course for pretty much all school districts. The month of September has higher payroll costs. We have a lot of payouts that happen in September, so that is quite in line with what we are used to seeing. All right, the caveat on this page, some of these numbers down at the bottom could very well change. The numbers that you see in the blue highlighted portions, those are all going to be correct and accurate. The ones down at the bottom, these are based on our closing. All right, capital projects. We have had no activity in here. We have not run our treasury reports yet on this. We're still working on closing. We have to do some parts of closing before we can input the treasury reports for September. So nothing on here is set in stone, but it is up here. This is where we are at right now, but it is very likely to change, especially when we bring other funds in here. ASB, same thing as capital projects. We are working on closing for ASB. We have not put the treasury reports in for September, so a lot of the information on here will be updated after we put those numbers in. Transportation Vehicle Fund, these numbers are as accurate as we think they are going to be right now until we close. We've had some interest go into there, but not a lot of activity on this one. And then finally, Debt Service Fund. We had the first bond adjustment payment, which is a very interesting thing from an accounting perspective, and that was about $300. So we pay for when our banks sell bonds back and forth, we pay for that. So, yeah. All right, any questions on this?
No? Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right,
Okay.
thank you very much. All right, next we have annual student choice transfer report with Assistant Superintendent Hudson, I believe.
All right. So the annual Student Choice Transfer Report is a report we do every year. This year is slightly different because our student data management person left during the summer. So it ended up being a task I took over late in the summer. So it's one thing to know that work is done in your office, is another thing to do the work in your office. So it has some insights into this this year that I don't know that I had in the past. So there are 5, 6 major reasons that families choose to go choice into a district or out of a district. And these are the top 5 that we've pulled. Enrolling on an online program is a lion's share of it, but alternative school programs, or they believe their educational condition will be improved in the new district. And you can read those. So there's about 7 or 8, I should have counted, reasons that people can choose, but those are the most obvious. A new data point I brought in this year because I just found it interesting. The different schools that are that SWIM residents are choosing to attend. The biggest number is the Crescent School District, the Home Connections program. And the Port Angeles School District, 35 students. When I first looked at this, I was confident that probably most of those were Seaview, but I found really quite the opposite. We had 2 students go to Dry Creek, 2 to Jefferson, 2 to Lincoln, and 9 to Port Angeles High School, 6 to Stevens, 2 to Roosevelt, and 12 to Seaview. So most of those were parents who were working, and so they thought the experience of their students would be better if they were moving on to a more local school to their work. Go ahead. So we had 110 students choice into the SQUIM school district, and you can see the breakdown there. I pulled out DVS and OPA at the bottom because I found them both interesting. 4 students into DVS, 17 into OPA. So we do bring revenue from outside of the district and through the OPA program. 159 students choicing out. And so the numbers are not unusual. 3rd grade was higher this year, but many are kind of within the same. 7th grade, fewer students. So it's just the movement of families and students. I pulled in one extra slide that I found very interesting. So I think we tend to ask ourselves, why are we losing these kids, or why are kids leaving the SQUIM school district? Well, it's very interesting data. So we had 5 students choicing for TK programs. We had for kindergarten and 2nd grade, we had 36 students choice out. Of those 36 students, only 4 had ever attended SQUIM schools. So that to me is very interesting data. Many of those were headed to Crescent for a 1 day of school week program.
Can I ask, just sorry, I want to back up for a second. TK, so.
That's what parents notated of TK.
So they live in this area, but
Yes.
they're going to a TK program outside of the area?
Yes. One
Okay.
parent noted TK and then choiced into Grey Wolf. So sometimes it's not exactly what people think, but it is what people chose. 2 went to Port Angeles and 2 went to online other districts. 3-5 students, 35 students choiced to other districts. Of those students, only 7 had attended SQUIM schools. Middle school, 38 choiced out of the district, only 8 had attended the middle school. And the 45 students, 9-8, of those 45, 26 had enrolled, or excuse me, had been enrolled in the high school. So I think it's, I'll, in the next assessment presentation, I'll talk about curiosity. And I put these numbers up because I think it is curious. I think some of those things that we perhaps thought of why kids are leaving the district, or have been told why students are leaving the district, just isn't actually what the data tells us. So a short report, but an interesting report. And something that I know for a fact I would not have realized had I not been running that software since the summer. So any questions?
Just a interesting procedural thing that occurred to me when my son was young. We lived in Shoreline, but I wanted him to go to the Seattle schools for a certain reason. And I was told that I had to come up with really definitive, clear evidence as to why I thought Seattle would be a better place for him, even though I lived in Shoreline. Now, here it sounds like it's a much more fluid dynamic, right? So it's
And
just
not just
simply,
SQUIM, this is through the EDS software, so this is Washington wide.
okay.
So I think as a state, they probably got tired of trying to do data on lots of different issues, I'm guessing.
Right.
There are just specific things that you can choose, and those are
Okay,
what most people
interesting.
choose. Okay. Okay. Next assessment. I want to first start with the clarification. I asked Tracy to pull down the assessment data that we posted on Friday. Over the weekend, I had looked and found an error in my data, and then another error was drawn to my attention on cohort data, looking back data. So we've made those adjustments, and I feel good about the numbers today. I would remind any of us, if we see numbers that we aren't sure about, go ahead and pull up the state report card. It's cumbersome, according to me, but it is there for you to disaggregate as much as you would like. So a lot of slides, and I'll try and get through them fairly quickly. Why do we want to look at summative data? It really matters to us. It provides clear snapshot of student achievement at the end of a learning cycle. It helps educators set meaningful goals and identify areas of improvement. You'll have school improvement plans next week, and it's important that we are responsive to the data that we see. Now, mind you, the data looks a couple of different ways. Cohort data, how this year's third grade class does as fourth graders. But we also want to look at how third grade data looks against third grade data, because that's where we find maybe issues in our tier 1 instruction and curricular, how our curriculum is being presented. It encourages curiosity and reflection. Some of the data we'll look at today, it kind of just makes you think, well, that's interesting. So we should dig into that data at the building level and look at the reasons that we may find that. Supports informed decision-making for school board members. That's why it's important that we get correct data in front of you. Guides effective resource allocation and policy development, and it really fosters a culture of continuous improvement and shared accountability. I've been with the district long enough to remember the days when our CSIPs were really about everything but data. And so it's great that we're looking at data now and really trying to make informed decisions about what we're doing in our classrooms academically. Why summative data matters for student success. Again, it highlights outcomes that buildings can celebrate achievements they have, but it also helps us to identify and assess needs. And that's one thing we're asked to do each year in the state, is to have a needs assessment of specific data to buildings, district data. We cannot make decisions based on hunches. We have to make decisions based on facts. It allows for goal setting. It encourages reflection and the refining of teaching practices, hoping for better results. We do that through our PLCs as well. It equips our school board to advocate for policies that enhance student learning, and you've done that through a lot of the conversations you've had about legislative policies that you want to move forward. It guides resource decisions that prioritize student growth and equity, and it helps strengthen shared responsibility to help each student meet their full potential. Today, the summary of data that you'll see is state and district grade level data from our SBA assessment, district race and ethnicity data as compared to the state, and program and characteristic data as compared to the state. Cohort look back data, district and building initiatives, and upcoming building continuous improvement plans, the CSIPs that we'll talk about next week. I want to start by looking at district scores by race and ethnicity. If you look at the bottom, I've got the brown color as ELA, the orange is math, and the yellow is science. And this is how different demographics of our student perform on each of those assessments. When you look at the zeros, that often means that the numbers are too small for the state to release data. So the state does not release data on some of our populations. On other populations, it does release data, and this is data we want to look at the building level. Clearly, as the district, at the district level, when we look at American Indian, Native, Alaskan, we'll look at that during our consultation with the local tribes. So it is data that we look at, and is data that we try and become curious about. Next, English language learners, low-income, foster, homeless, migrant, military, Section 504, and students with disabilities. So the area that I want to be most curious next time we meet with principals is looking at military families and the difference between math, ELA, math, and science. So that's a bit of data that we should become curious about, because there's a significant change there. And I had originally wondered if it was time when families got their new orders, and maybe that was a system, but we found that that's actually not the case. They happen throughout the year. And so want to look at maybe the ability of students who move systems to be more successful in math and science with additional supports in the building, but math and ELA, but maybe we don't have as many supports in science. So an area of curiosity. This is just for fun. It's a long night, so cute little guy. Language arts. So Washington State and Sequim School District. So the data in white is the state, and the data in Sequim is orange. And so again, you can look at areas that Helen Haller grades 3 through 5 above the state, a slight dip in grade 6, and then increase in 7th and 8th grade above the state. Strong ELA scores at grade 10. Cohort look back data. This at times is some of the most confusing data to look at, and it's a really kind of interesting data to wrangle. So I've tried to lay it out in a way that we can make the most sense out of it. When we look at the data, you'll look at current 4th grade data for ELA. So the only data we have on a current 4th graders is their 3rd grade data. When you look at 5th grade, we've got 4th and 3rd grade data, and so on. So when you look at 6th, 7th, and 8th, you'll see that that is 6th grade data for 7th graders, 6th grade data in yellow, 5th grade data in gray, 4th grade in orange, and 3rd grade in blue. So we do see increases with 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students, and then a decline at grade 6 in the data. You can see the same data in 8th grade. 7th grade is yellow, 6th is gray, 5th is orange, and 4th is blue. And you can continue and look at that data as we go. So I have to talk myself through it every time. Current 9th graders, yellow is 8th grade, gray is 7th graders, orange is 6th graders, and then blue is 5th grade. So we do continue to see a dip from 5th grade down to 6th grade. And again, something we want to be curious about. I know Principal Lunt is looking at that data, 6th grade in particular, to see why we have a consistent dip there. There's also good news. They continue to kind of bump back up. So we'll continue to look at that. And I'm sure she'll talk to you about that during her CSIP next week.
So if I'm looking at current 10th grade, for
Mhm.
example, that one
That would be 8th grade.
clearly shows a clear progression up
Correct.
every year, essentially.
Correct.
Okay.
And that yellow would be 8th grade, 7th, 6th, and 5th. So
Okay. Oh, current. Okay.
because it's our current 10th graders, they don't have 10th grade data yet. So that's their 8th grade data.
That's their 8th grade data.
It's why it's so
Okay.
confusing.
Right.
I had Tracy double check it's fun. I'll show it to you someday. It's cumbersome.
Yeah.
We can move on. ELA scores by race and ethnicity. I pulled that same data and just show you the state is white or off kind of a cream color, and the SQUIM students are in the orange. So with the exception of Black, African American, Native Hawaiian, where we don't receive data from the state, our students do very well with the exception of Asian. And again, this is a system. So this is not a grade band. This is as a district. That's how the state shares that information. Okay. Okay, same thing by programs and characteristics. So we see EL, low income, foster, homeless, migrant, military, section 504, and students with disabilities. So our students with disabilities is sneaking up. It was much lower last year. So happy about that. And we know that Helen Haller has moved out of improvement. And that's a good chunk of the reason I would guess is their scores have improved.
Does that show our low income students? It seems like it's significantly higher than the
Yeah,
state
yeah.
average.
And that's what we hope shows really strong tier 2 instruction and
Okay.
tier 3. And obviously also a strong tier 1, but I think we're pretty happy with that data because low income is the great equalizer. You can be any of the other demographics, and low income is the one that all people can be, all students can be two,
Right.
two areas. So
Yeah.
Okay, mathematics. It is the same. All right, so Washington State and Sequim School District. So again, this is just third, fourth district as we go. So we see third grade higher than the state, fourth grade higher than the state, fifth grade higher than the state, sixth grade barely lower. And that again is that area that we're just interested in, that sixth grade tier 1 content. Seventh grade higher, eighth grade slightly lower in math, and slightly lower at the high school. Principal Fox will talk to you about some things she's doing for high school math that are pretty exciting and pretty targeted strategies to try and move that score up.
Yeah, because that's pretty much, I mean, even with the raise, I mean, it's like that
Mhm.
from fifth grade on. After fifth grade, there's
It is.
something.
Well,
happening
we use
after
Eureka
fifth
Math
grade.
through grade 5. We use Carnegie Math,
Yeah.
grades 6 through
So
12.
then there's that shift.
That's
Yeah.
true. We've just had a consultant from Carnegie Math out in the district, I think Wednesday and Thursday of last week, again, to do some PD with new teachers at the middle school. Making sure, and I just want to, I guess, put a pitch in for Carnegie, Eureka, or more instructional materials. We have state standards, we have a state assessment blueprint. And so we want to make sure that we're teaching the standards of our state and using instructional materials to do so. We just know that Eureka is very aligned. They're both aligned. So again, some curiosity that we want to have with principals at our secondary.
We also are using EAB
Mhm.
to run a math practices cohort, and we have good attendance at that, and we're working on those practices as well.
Is there any value to introducing younger students just a bit to the Carnegie method, and so that they're somewhat prepped before they go into the next level?
I
too?
think we could talk about that. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is we want those basic skills really solidified with students. But there is some communication, I think, that needs to take place between 5th and 6th grade, and probably secondary and elementary math. More cohort data, again, I won't read them all to you, but I think 10th grade, you can show the math issue. If I want to say that, orange would be 8th grade math. Gray would be 7th grade. Orange, no, I said yellow. Yeah, yellow. This is why I shouldn't be doing this. Yellow is 8th grade, and gray is 7th. Orange is 6th, and blue is 5th. And as I looked at it, I thought this really is, if we looked at students those are students who are coming into 4th and 5th grade during COVID. So we do see that was hard, particularly in math. With students, I still hold pretty strongly that people read to their students during COVID, but very few sit down and did math. So our math data, and I think you'll hear more from principals in the next weeks. Math scores, again, orange is SQUIM and cream is the state. The same disparity in Black, African American, and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, just too small of a population for the state to move that data forward. So math were similarly close with the state, with the exception of American, Indian, Native American, and Hispanic Latino, which I feel we have a good bit of traction there. Program and characteristics. So EL, SCWMS stronger, low income SCWMS stronger, homeless SCWMS stronger, military SCWMS stronger, Section 504 SCWMS stronger, and we're closing distance and students with disabilities. So I think this is a great temperature for under-resourced or students maybe who have not met educational equity through the years. I think are, again, strong tier 2 and 3 programs. Tier 1 instruction is something to be proud of in our schools. Science. Science is, again, a tricky thing because we only take the science assessment in 5th grade, 8th grade, and 10th grade. And so currently above the state in all 3 areas. This is the one I really just hate. So, okay, 6th grade only took science in 5th grade. 7th grade only took science in 5th grade. 8th grade only took science in 5th grade. 9th grade took science in 8th grade and in 5th grade. And then 10th grade took science as 8th graders, and then during their 5th grade rotation, if you remember, we did not test because of COVID in the spring. We tested in the fall, and we tested a different group. So very cumbersome, but at least colorful. That's why I come up there. Science scores by race and ethnicity. Again, we have those same ends that are low, and things to be happy about and things to be curious about. Programs and characteristics, same things. I think things to be happy about. The military parent is really the anomaly there to be curious about. And again, I think because of the hands-on nature of science, a very small disparity in for students with disabilities. Just a reminder, tiered systems of support are something that the district works on. You'll hear your principals talking about tier 1 instruction, using PLCs to try and tighten that up. And we'll bring range data for you at each of those meetings so that you can see if we're closing those gaps between the highest classroom and the lowest classroom at each grade level. Tier 1 instruction happens daily. Tier 2 instruction, you heard Shannon Green being talked about, small group instruction. That can happen in the actual classroom. It should happen 2 to 4 times a week where we're pulling small groups and targeting specific needs. And then tier 3 are can be for each student as identified by individual plans. And so again, all 3 things that we're concentrating on in our buildings. Attributes of strong tier 1 instruction, professional learning communities. It's all of the things that are best practices for our schools and for student outcomes. And so just a long list of those things that I think you'll find in all buildings in most classrooms. Professional learning systems focus. What do we want kids to learn? How will we know if they've learned it? How will we respond when they don't learn it? And how will we extend learning for students who are proficient? And we give our teachers a lot of time on Mondays to meet at grade level groups by subject cohort and by different alliances at the high school when those teachers work in singleton areas. So I think you're really going to enjoy Principal Fox's presentation. I haven't seen it. I just know that she's doing some pretty exciting things to try and strengthen the PLTs at the high school. And lastly, with our principals, you should be looking forward to 90-day plan to approach continuous improvement based on data that they've found. Data-driven goals to strengthen tier 1 instruction, increase student outcomes, and you should see goals in math, ELA, science, and writing. So that is what I have. I am happy to take any questions if you have anything left over.
It's really interesting. Really, thank you so much for putting that all
Yeah, you
together.
bet.
I do think that it might be interesting, we always compare ourselves to Washington State
Mhm,
scores
mhm.
but when you look at the numbers, oftentimes their scores are pretty terrible.
Mhm.
And I think it would be worthwhile just highlighting our scores without theirs
Mhm.
next to them because, for me, it looks really good until I look at the actual numbers.
Mhm.
And that's what would concern me.
Correct, and that's why I try to put in cohort, so you can
Yeah,
have those third
that
graders
was
that
helpful.
ask third graders, ask fourth graders, ask fifth graders, because we do tend to see those lines moving up. Sixth grade, is an interesting, well, we just need to be curious about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And what we did find in some of the ELA is that it changed from, and some of the writing changed, and we don't know that we saw that reflected in what was. So that's been some PD that we've done early this year with our coach, Elizabeth Lawson, working with sixth grade. She's there right now as a lab teacher and trying to look at specifically what that blueprint shows and then what we can do to be more targeted in that instruction. So, yeah, it is interesting. It can be confusing. It's a lot of numbers, but hopefully it'll come to life for you with principal presentations in the next few months. Thank you. You bet.
Do we see, and I'm just, I don't know if you look like district to district wide, but I'm just also thinking our student with disabilities. I know it's something that we're continually trying to work on, but I'm wondering, because as we noticed with some of the lobbying efforts that we
Mhm.
did about something that people were very aware of is the percentage of students they have with disabilities and um, learned that there is a lot of variation. There are
Mhm.
some that were significantly below the cap, some that were above the cap. Do we see that also has an impact as it relates to these scores where it's
I did not look at that. I think
Okay.
we're about 19% right now.
Okay.
I'm hearing about 19%, so
Yeah.
slightly above. I'm sure that's data we can pull. I'll talk to Director Dahlem, see if we
Yeah.
can't pull some of that data.
just kind of curious how that.
Well, there's so many things. I often, well, I like to look at the data, but we remember that we had about 12 or 13 new teachers come this year to our middle school. We always have a convergence, divergence of students coming in, coming out. So like to look at them as apples and apples, and that cohort data is about as close as we can come, but it's dynamic, what goes on in a classroom and what goes on in a school building. So working hard to identify those needs and then put those targeted approaches into practice.
One more, I guess, curiosity I have too. I'm thinking about that transition from fifth grade to sixth grade. I wonder, obviously, because you saw it dip at the not quite to the degree that we had, but we saw it dip at the state level too, right? So I think it's something statewide. I think, right? There's a whenever it goes, but I do wonder, and I'm not suggesting this is something we look at, but I wonder there are a few districts out there. I know Port Angeles being one of them, where they actually are sixth grade is in the elementary. And again, I'm not suggesting that that's something we look at, but I just wonder how that with not just Port Angeles, but other districts, how that might figure into that. Just to gain insight, like, do we see that the disparity is not as impactful?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'll have a look.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's so many other reasons so many other impacts to having sixth grade the elementary that like I'm not suggesting that. There's a lot of challenges
It
there.
could reveal a little bit of what the
Yeah,
issue is.
Yeah, if it reveals something, that's my
Yeah.
curiosity, I guess. Okay. I think we're at our facilities report. Mr. Mike Santos, welcome.
So Donna, I thought I had the record on the longest presentation with the 100-day plan, but well done. Thank you. I appreciate that. So good evening, Board Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, and of course, Ms. Norman. We're gonna have a conversation about Alyssa's Law tonight. So Alyssa's Law was passed in end of March of this year. Got quite a few requirements for the school districts across the state, mostly surrounding the security and safety systems within and how those systems in some cases interact with law enforcement. I'm not going to bore you with the language of the law, but that's the essence of it. And these are the 6 specific bullet points in the law that have to be complied with. Now, when I say have to be complied, I mean eventually. And the reason why I say eventually is that the state has asked OSPI, well, no, told OSPI to tell us to report back on having one system currently that is district-wide, working at every school. So that's the requirement right now, one of the 6. All right. So we report this through OSPI's ICO system, or I do anyway, and I'll go over that with you. Are there any questions on this slide before I move on? Okay, very well. So here's the reporting requirements. I won't read you the first paragraph and bore you with that, but like I said, I report it in ICOS. It's the same place that we report our building assessment information. They have a separate section within that I report this. So the compliance report for each of the campuses is listed here. For Gray Wolf Middle School, high school specifically, there's a live video feed with law enforcement, school district, and school access. In other words, the school resource officer has access to all the camera systems and to all the recordings thereof. Okay, so it's complied. OPA, same, plus they have a fence. So that happens to, it complies with item 6 in the previous slide, which is a building system. In this case, OSPI defined it as site surrounding fences to regulate access of all things. Next slide, please. Holler, same. They've got cameras and they've got a fence. So that's the sum total of reporting for Alyssa's Law that we had to do prior to October 1st. So all of these, excuse me, all of this information was conveyed to OSPI last week of September. So we were on time. So what's next? I'll have Bo come up and talk to you about the phone system in a second, but it's investigate the phone system to serve as a panic button, essentially. Integrate statutory requirements into new properties. In other words, just what you saw, Alyssa's Law, and integrate increased functionality into the remaining properties as budgets allow. And that's just a way of saying, as we move into the bond program, we're looking at the district holistically from a safety and security perspective. Our systems, what systems we're going to employ, how they're going to allow law enforcement to interact with those systems. So more to come. Anyway, phone system.
Thank you. Yeah, so one thing we actually did a test of here at the district office recently with the Great Shakeout was using our new phone system to do a sort of a page announcement. And so how that plays into Alyssa's Law is that our goal is to expand the system to be district-wide. And that does a couple things. One, it aids in the communication process for alerting, and but it also potentially gives us the ability to use the phones as part of that panic system, so that potentially from a classroom or somewhere of that nature, we could trigger that kind of communication. It also, because it's a system that's configured the way it is, it will allow for law enforcement to utilize it as well, by being able to call in and use the paging system if necessary to make announcements from law enforcement location offsite, or from law enforcement on-site using a cell phone, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of ways that our new phone system can potentially tie into not only compliance, but also just various elements of the system, in addition to things with our intercom system and cameras, as Mike spoke to. So yeah, IT's been hard at work on the new phone system, And so far, it's been doing well for us. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Any questions about Alyssa's Law?
And regarding the fence requirement, does that somehow correspond with the type of building it is as to whether or not it needs a fence? Just
Yeah, it's
curious.
interesting. The reason why a fence is eligible to be defined under the 6th item on that second slide. Do you want to go back? Yeah. A system that complies with applicable state building code requirements. That's a bunch of gobbledygook to say a fence is one of those.
Okay.
It could be, I don't know, it could be a Tesla coil. You know, it could be practically anything, but it has to comply with Group B occupancies for emergency response systems. So to answer your question directly, yeah, it applies only to Group B occupancies in this particular case. So there are other systems that, if applicable under state building code, would go hand in glove with a fence.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Anything else? Okay. So moving on real quick to capital stuff. Project updates, levy capital projects. We'll break ground, replacing the auditorium sewer tomorrow or Wednesday. It's looking like Wednesday now. The H building drain line repair, we thought we were going to get started a little bit sooner, but we just couldn't make the math work. Working at night and weekends, it just couldn't make it work. The photo lab is not accessible but through a classroom, and it's going to be a mess. So we didn't want to disturb that particular classroom and the hallway and the egress out that particular door. So it's just better off we do it during the Christmas break and make the mess then. Only make it once, make it all at once, and just be done with it. So we're going to be scoping the rest of the line this coming weekend. In fact, we have some suspicions based on some other evidence that we have that the damage may go a little bit further than we initially thought. So stay tuned.
And that's for the auditorium.
No,
No.
that's for H building, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Auditorium, we have a full scope. We know that line's bad all the way back to the bathrooms. What we have right now in scope is to replace all the line that's right in front of the door and the line that goes all the way to the 10-inch in the parking lot. We are going to get a change order to replace the old degrading cast iron, unmaintainable stuff that goes all the way to the bathrooms. So that's coming. Okay. Just a heads up there. Bond program, progress updates. We did get the Geotech and Land Survey RFQ responses. They were received on 15 October. We actually got 5 each compliant responses. All right. And just to give you a little bit of heads up there, those have all been reviewed and recommendations have been given to engage with 2 particular firms, one Geotech, one land survey to get their pricing. And we'll be back to you shortly on that. So that's good news for us. High school CTE architect RFQ responses were received last Friday. And we have a total of 6 firms to review. That's a good outcome for us, truly. So those packages are out now, being reviewed by the SSC. Schedule right now is this coming Wednesday. We'll get together. We'll review those SOQs, statement of qualifications. In other words, their portfolios and responses. We'll down select, and then the following week we'll have another meeting, couple of meetings, orals, and an interview. That date and time is to be decided. Any questions on those before I repeat myself on the other Horizon stuff? Okay, so the other stuff in the right side column is what I've told you in the past, just to keep it fresh in your mind. Gray Wolf potable water infrastructure RFP hits the street in January. Middle school roof, January. Auditorium technical refresh, I am still scoping that work. And as I can, as I have time. And then final levy projects are to be decided in the spring of 2026 when all of the collections from the levy have been obtained and all of the current encumbrances and commitments are on the table. That's all I have. Any questions? All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's superintendent report.
Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to start with an acknowledgement that we did have 2 past students who were involved in a serious car accident in Seattle, and both of them severely injured. And I just want to say our thoughts are with their families and their loved ones and them while they fight for strong recovery. And it's just a sad situation. And I know there are a lot of students who were friends with these students at the high school, and we certainly are helping to support those students as well. So thank you to everyone who's helping with that. Secondly, we did have a situation over the weekend where we did have to issue an incident notification to families and staff. There were students at our high school who were threatened online, and we did have law enforcement investigating that yesterday. And I just want to commend the Sequim PD because they stayed in touch with us throughout the afternoon and evening, every step of the way, and assisted us in being able to communicate late last night in a way that could give solid information just built on facts. I do want to share that there were some concerns brought to me about the use of the word hoax in the email. The hoax was used as wording because that is what is in our RCW related to if any type of threat to a school or students within a school is made and it is determined to be a hoax, it is still a criminal offense. So the law enforcement was debriefing me last night on the background of the arrest, and that RCW was the basis. So I definitely want to emphasize the word hoax was in no way meant to be dismissive. It was meant to represent what the relationship to the law was and to also let people know this was a very serious event, very serious threats going to students. And of course, it has caused, bless you, those students and families to feel very disconcerted, makes you feel as though your safety is directly threatened. And we have had great partnership with Sequim PD again today, making sure they are patrolling our campuses and present. So thank you to everyone, including all of the administrative response and the teacher and counselor response here on campus for students. Any questions about those events?
I guess, can I, just regarding the hoax, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm assuming maybe there are concerns because, like in my mind, I'm thinking that has a certain meaning in my mind, and of course, I don't go from I'm not thinking of a legal meaning necessarily. But is that speaking more to the actual follow, like the intent to follow through versus the actual, throwing the threat out there? Is it, and you don't have to get into the legalities of it, but is that the detail that?
Well, tonight I've brought RCW 9.61.160 threats to bomb or to injure property. And in this RCW that the legal system does use and law enforcement uses, it does indicate that if anything was a hoax, that it isn't a defense. So it is criminal in nature. So here's another copy you can pass around. And law enforcement worked with me on making sure the email that was sent was accurate. But I do think the common reference to hoax felt dismissive, or as if the school was attempting to not tell the severity of the situation. And I just want to emphasize that was not the case. And I do see the perspective, though, from that side. So I just wanted to acknowledge it.
Another word for like a non-credible threat.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. We will continue to monitor the situation. Of course, the suspect was arrested last night, did make a court appearance today. So we will keep getting information back about that. And we will be implementing threat assessment protocol as we do anytime we have an event like this. Some other things that we've had going on in the district, we did go and have a booth this year at the Chamber of Commerce Business Showcase. We had never done that before, and we went out to Sunland and we got some fantastic, not only feedback, but just interactions, letting people know about the school, having people ask us questions about different topics that happen within the school. So it was a very positive place to be. We did tour the new Sequim Library, and I'd like to let you know that that is an absolutely beautiful building. The windows are a holdup because of supply chain, and so they're already 9 months later than had been anticipated, so they cannot wait. But what I will say to you is the interior of that building is going to be such a welcoming space. I don't know if there are enough parking spaces for all the people that will want to enjoy it. The children's book section is tremendous, and there are so many built-ins so that they're both storage and can be utilized by students. And they've really thought about our teen population in Sequim and students that would be interested in going there to be able to spend time with friends and among resources. So I think we're all going to benefit so much from the planning and the care that's been put into that.
Would you be able to do, once it fully open, like field trips over for kids at all? Is that something that's in the work? I don't know if that's something we regularly did before, but I know that's something that experience in Port Angeles to sometimes, especially early elementary, to get that initial exposure to the public libraries.
Library staff spoke to us about wanting to have follow-up meetings about how we can integrate and do things just like that and more.
Sure.
And so I think it's going to be a wonderful partnership.
Yeah.
They also asked that as we move on the bond projects, that we consider advocating for a crosswalk that actually matches up with both driveways. And I said, we need to see where our driveways will go first, and
Yeah.
that we can start that plan, but it
Sure.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Some of you were there, but we had a very well attended CTE General Advisory meeting where we spoke with the teams about what's coming next and design advisory for CTE. So we'll be looking forward to that. Speaking of design advisory, we have small teams that will be moving out to the different sites to speak with stakeholders who work with us about what they are interested in for experiences in each of the sites that may interest them. There was a family math night at Helen Holler Elementary that was very well attended, very successful. And speaking of our math results, we are thinking of all of the ways that we can get students and families to be engaged in math practice. Focus on the fundamentals is what's really going to make a difference. We did have a regional school safety and security network meeting, and this meeting was dedicated to event security. So really evaluating the systems that we have or don't have for event security. So think of the football game, think of a significant dance, think of an auditorium show. We've got a lot of work to do, so we'll be evaluating how all of those different checklists and interest points that were brought up to us are being evaluated. And our school district had a very good showing at this event. We had a number of team members go. So we're happy about that. The SQUIM Education Foundation Hopes and Dreams gala dinner occurred, and you were there as well. Super successful, very great support for our school district. And I loved seeing people's interests and what they were willing to put up a paddle for. So I just want to thank SEF for being such a partner with us. Any comments you'd like to make about that event?
Agree with exactly what you shared.
It was great to see the variety of things that people bid on, from music to microscopes. And I think it was a great opportunity for folks to hear what's happening in the schools, because the teacher grant applications show the exact kinds of things and activities and explorations that are happening in schools. And a lot of us don't spend a lot of time in the classroom, so it was great to have that little window on what's happening. So it was a great event.
And it was excellent to see the increase in the number of teacher applicants.
Yes.
So I'm very happy that's taking
From a
hold.
wider range of schools.
Yes. Regarding PLCs, we did have Solution Tree consultant Cheyenne Oliva come and work with teams at Helen Haller Elementary School, and had come the previous week to Gray Wolf. So that is very interesting conversation about how we continue to evolve and where teams would appreciate resource support. OSPI provided a statewide update and spoke about how federal funding is has potential for change, or where we see some steadiness. So we want to acknowledge both, because although out in the atmosphere of all of the politics, what we watch is what's really coming and landing in our school district. And right now, we feel fortunate that things continue to come in as expected. We'll be keeping an eye on things, and the state is monitoring as well. Second grade teachers put on a reading night at Gray Wolf Elementary, and it was such a great evening because it was educational for the parents, and the students had different teachers' rooms they could rotate to have their own experiences with literacy. I know that Gray Wolf is working very hard to engage parents in understanding what benefits come from even just 10 minutes a night, that it becomes an aggregate endeavor. And it's really important to continue with consistency. Read, read, read with your child. So I appreciate them promoting it. You've heard tonight in public comment about our SHISO delegation coming and touring the schools. It was successful. I would say they were enthusiastic visitors, definitely intrigued by the industrial arts at the middle school. They were surprised at what middle schoolers were actually able to build, and the teamwork and camaraderie, the maturity within that setting, and the output. So they're very interested in talking more about that. They enjoyed all of their visitation, and I think felt incredibly welcomed and very comfortable, and built a lot of confidence about them sending students here. So we'll look forward to that. We did have a K-12 funding equity work group and full work group debrief just last week. So I continue to serve on that committee, and each of the 4 subcommittees reported out. Website is available, and I can send you the link so that you can read what each of the subgroups is prioritizing and recommending. However, I want to tell you that it's become clear that this will be a 3-year process. And so we have just started with recommendations, and there is a lot of study that is recommended happen next. So more to come. And then a team from our school district attended the Washington CTE Fall Conference. It was dedicated to a couple of different areas, AI, and also making sure that you have different pathway programs, including work-based work site learning. And I went to one on a manufacturing and logistics supply pathway that is incredibly relevant because of our new CTE center and having modern equipment and modern experiences, but also our Recompete grant in the Clallam County, because that will be around manufacturing and logistics supply. And if Amazon does build a warehouse, think of all of that that would be necessary. So highly relevant, very enthusiastic, and I just want to appreciate our CTE team because I think we have a lot of great things going on. That's all I have.
Okay. Questions? Sure.
All right, we have one last item with the Design Advisory Committee. So the Design Advisory Committee had put out the brief, and I sent that home with all of you for homework. I just wanted to circle back to that and see if there was any further input you would want to give, or if you felt as though the experiences that folks had clarified and interests in that document were understood and supported.
I had reached out to Tracy and given some of my feedback that I feel like the Design Advisory Committee themselves had captured, but I wanted to highlight it. It was, one thing was about, there was something in there about the glass walled, and then one of the things our team the team I was sitting with, high school had said, oh, well, we might not want to get too specific with certain areas. And so I mentioned that, and I believe it might have been Director Roca when his table had, or somebody else that had mentioned regarding the, under the stadium where it had talked about shaded seating and wanting to be a
Covered.
little bit more
All weather.
specific when we're talking about not just protecting from shade, but, or not protecting from the sun, but also other weather. So,
Most of our school year is the kind of wintry, yeah.
yes, so shade might not be like specific enough, but
Yeah.
that was certainly one piece that came out. I guess the other piece that I was sort of resonating on is, and I know as it was explained to us at the Design Advisory Committee, is this is now going back to multiple different groups, and there's a big kind of a back and forth process, and so one of the things I think that we want to be cognizant of is that we have this draft that's going out, getting feedback, but when folks receive the draft, it doesn't mean that that's all like, hey, we've already come up with all the answers, now we want feedback. Like, we want to make sure that the process is open, so folks
Fluid.
can, yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
so that, yeah, I think that was just something that I resonated on as I was considering it, that we just need to make sure that it's very fluid process.
Yeah, and that it's really a starting place. I mean, the fact that it is so, I think, really wonderfully detailed and and there's, what strikes me about it too is that it's not just practical things like clustered classroom pods. There's a lot of almost a philosophical approach about closeness to nature and sort of a design approach that I find really appealing. But it's also the kind of thing that once it goes out into more conversation, there's going to be some alterations. So, but I think it's a great start.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
think, yeah, and just one, I guess one last thing I'll just capture on it. The one thing I appreciate is that it's considering the, like, the work that's happening on the inside and the importance of that, but also about how we bring those new families in as well. And so that being captured in, like, we want this to be a place that feels inviting to our community, to our prospective community members and all that. So it's a small piece of it that I like being highlighted as well. So,
That.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So, anything else today?
No, that's all.
All right, we're gonna board business, but actually, before we jump into board business, I did want to just take a personal point of privilege, if you will, because I just saw an announcement came in that we're so thankful to have our we had Aaron Lavelle here, our ESD board representative, but I did get there's election results that came out. I don't know if y'all participated in the vote, but just want to congratulate Jim Stoffer, who's been reelected into the ESD director position. So congratulations, Jim. So exciting stuff. All right, with that, we'll do first reading and approval of policy 1815, ethical conduct for school directors. Yeah, we can start with a motion.
I move that we move policy 1815 ethical conduct for school directors to a second reading.
I second.
Discussion.
This was the one that in the policy committee, they just changed the language to be consistent instead
From
of
must
some
to
having
should.
musts and shoulds and, you know, we just changed it all to the same language, which everyone should do the same thing regardless of what there was. So just brought it into alignment. And then we added, I forgot, we did add in the commitment, we added a commitment section that board members should promote the interest of public education, because that used to be in the oath of office. And we had concerns of whether that was the appropriate place. So we moved it into the ethical conduct for school board directors. We felt that was the appropriate place for that.
I just want to say I appreciate the consistency used here. But also want to say that by no means, especially as where it's required by law,
Yes.
by no means should the word should be interpreted as, well, it's kind of okay if you don't, right? Because I could see
Right,
somebody
right.
saying, well, they're changing must to should. Does that mean they're saying, hey, let's ease off of this a little bit? No, it's more of a consistency, and where law is required to be followed,
Mhm.
from my perspective anyway, it must be followed, right? And so I just thought it's important to highlight that. And we of course have many spots within our board policies that including the oath of office, but also where it talks about the requirement to follow applicable law, whether it be on a federal level, state level, you name it. So.
Yep.
All right. Anything else with this? All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion passes. First reading approval, policy 3143.
I move that we move the first reading, oh no, sorry, 3143, notification and dissemination of information of threats of violence or harm to a second reading.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think this was just a new policy with the policy committee that we were adding, correct? This wasn't one that we had before?
Yes,
Remember?
this is the language that is requiring that if any type of criminal action happens within a school day, the district must notify the parents as soon as possible, and it has to happen immediately that day. So we've added that information.
I think some of this was a response to the Parents' Bill of Rights, so we just wanted to make sure our policies were in alignment with that and
Mhm.
updated.
Okay. I guess my one, curiosity is with things like this is the word immediately. Like it's always just interesting, like, is that as soon as somebody can, like, because sometimes notification could, or since
That is,
they can get
that
the-
is the intent, that immediately would provide the parent the ability to counsel their child, make decisions about having their child receive necessary resources, legal counsel, whatever that is. So it is intended to be a word that puts the onus on the school to make it happen quickly.
I think if I remember correct from our discussions, that was brought up in the policy committee and it was language that was used in the Parents' Bill of Rights. So we just, I think, used the same language.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
I was just a little bit like, does that mean 5 minutes? Does that mean 24 hours? Does that mean, like, it's,
Yeah.
It is just,
It is a vague but yet almost specific.
I don't
word.
think you'd want an absolute amount of
Right.
time. And so the other option is something that's a little squishy, no
Yeah.
matter what. But it's the intent is to do it as quickly as possible.
right, yeah.
Correct. And, you know, when you have something that's as severe of a situation as is described, you have to do a lot of containment before anybody's prepared to make a call.
Right.
But if you're going to have an organized response, someone needs to be delegated to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I guess when it comes down to it, it'll be like, yeah, I appreciate the word immediate, and I'm hopeful that that's, you know,
Always the intent.
that isn't like like scrutinized by well, there could have been a minute sooner, you know, that could be, could get a little tricky, so, okay. Any other discussion on that one? All right, all in favor? Oh, Pat?
Oh, I just wanted to follow up on Michael's comments about the policy committee, because that was and you're right, Eric. I mean, that obviously is a it's an indeterminate word to use, but I think that the purpose of the legislation was just to convey a sense of urgency that and a policy preference that the schools in these kinds of situations need to prioritize informing parents. And so that was the reason for that word. And like you said, it's, I don't think they even wanted to say, within 15 minutes or with, but I think that up until then, the idea had been that maybe the practice had been that parents sometimes weren't informed for a day or, even 2 days. And that they wanted to make it clear that, as the superintendent said, sometimes it takes a little while to just sort of get your arms around what's even happening, but that as soon as you are in a position where, you have something that is reportable to parents, that you will reach out to parents and contact them. So.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And and I'm sure a reasonable, 2 days, 1 day, a reasonable person would not assume that that's immediate.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion passes. That was moving. I don't know if I said this, but both motions for 10.01, 10.02 is moving both of those on to a second reading to clarify, right? Okay, good.
We did.
All right, 10.03, second reading and approval of policy 1111, oath of office.
I move that we approve policy 1111 oath of office.
I second.
Okay, discussion?
This was the one where we just cleaned up the language to make it just line, I think, with the RCWs. And just made it clean, just an oath to follow the Constitution and the laws of the state of Washington.
All right.
Mhm.
Hearing no further discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Second reading of 1310.
I move that we approve policy 1310, policy adoption manual and administrative procedure.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. Everything okay?
I don't know.
All right, second reading policy 3210.
I move that we approve policy 3210, non-discrimination.
I second.
Any discussion?
This language was just to be more inclusive with adding additional classes to the protected status. which is highlighted there.
Appreciate the neurodivergence as an educator myself, should be included.
And now it is.
Yes. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Right. Second reading, policy 4260.
I move that we approve policy 4260, use of school facilities.
I'll second. Any discussion? Like similar changes on this one? All right.
Yep.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Any, Pat, did you vote on that one?
Oh, aye, sorry.
No
My
problem.
computer was dying.
That was it. To confirm, that was aye to approve.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes unanimously. Next, is this second reading policy 6210.
I move that we approve policy 6210, purchasing authorization and control.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Next, second reading and approval of policy 6225, use of electronic signature.
I move that we approve policy 6225, use of electronic signature.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, motion passes. That's going to conclude our board business. We are going to move on to executive session. The board will meet in executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss with legal counsel representing agency matters related to agency enforcement actions, litigation, or potential litigation to which the agency is or is likely to become a party. And so 30 minutes and we will be in recess.